so hopefully this has worked. If you, there were people waiting in the other live stream, so I do apologise. Hopefully you'll find me over here now. I'm just trying to adjust this so it's not going to be in my way. I've got my laptop here as well so that I can hopefully follow the chat on there, because sometimes it's a bit glitchy on here. I'm going to actually jump into the other chat. Why does it have to be so complicated? Oh, hi Siren! Can you hear me okay? It was being really echoey as well as not being able to let me turn around. Hey Jen, how are you doing? Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm glad. It had said there was a few people. Oh, hi Gitta. Hey Joanna. Welcome. Thank you very much for following me over here and finding me. I was going to say I'm just going to try and leave a message in the chat of the other one just to say that I've started it on a new thing. Yeah, I don't know why it was going so weird before. Let me just find that. So how are you all doing? Let me know how things are. Oh, I can't even see that now. It doesn't seem to be even up the other one, so I can't find the chat. But hopefully you're finding your way over here anyway. Hey Andrea, hey Rachel. Hanging in there, yeah. Yeah, sorry Denise. I do not know what that was all about. But we're here now and that is good. That is good. So the idea behind these two chats is that this chat is the big chat, the big talk, which is going to be like actually talking about what we feel is like actually happening right now, what the hell is going on. And then the second part of the chat, which I've scheduled as a separate thing, because I know that some people like literally like, I just do not want to talk about it right now. We're going to do that in the second part. So I will like end this one and start the other one. And you know, it might be weird again like it was at the start of this one, but we will try and see what we can do. Oh, Heather, yes, I think I could do with a mod, which would be amazing if you don't mind. Although I'm not entirely sure I know how to do it. So if you could also let me know that, that would be really great. Yeah, hi Liz, sorry about that. I did not know what was going on there. So I also don't know where to look. I had a new phone fairly recently and I don't think I filmed very much, so I'm like looking at the wrong place. It's actually here that I need to be looking to see you guys. So, well, you know, not to see you really, but kind of. Click on the person's name or in the chat. So if I go into it on my computer, that would be brilliant. Thank you. Where can I see live chat? Oh, here we go. Live chat. My computer's a little bit behind, I think. Hey, Ninva. Okay, so Heather. Moderator. Yay. Hey, so cool. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. And it like just kept repeating and repeating and repeating what I'd said. And I was just like, this is really weird. So I'm just going to start again. Thank you, Heather. Congratulations on your spanner. I think Jen might already be a mod as well. So we've probably got 2 mods. Although actually it's not showing that up. So maybe not. I thought I'd added Jen as a mod before. Oh, thank you. My room is looking nice. I'm really, really happy with it. You're not a spanner, Heather. You're wonderful. So yeah, I am really happy with it. There's still a few things I need to do. Like there's still a few more things to go up on the walls and stuff like that. But I actually love it, and I'm really happy that I've moved down here. Although just before I came on, I was listening. I could hear the owls outside, and I'm like on the other side of the house now. I'm at the front of the house instead of at the back of the house when I was in the attic, so I can't hear the owls. Like I used to just leave the attic window open and I'd be able to hear the owls really close because they're kind of like there in the woods behind. So right, Jen, I'm gonna promote you as well. Okay, so I think we're good. We got a couple of mods. Oh, at least I hope we have. Has that worked or not? Oh yeah, it should have, I think. So, let me turn that down. I've got my headphones plugged in to hopefully not be annoying. So yeah, this first hour, we're probably more like sort of 45 minutes or so to give us a chance to go to the toilet and have a cuppa between. Yeah, it worked. We will be chatting about COVID-19, SARS-2, whatever the actual label for the virus is that is going around at the moment. What we, the sort of ideas and things that are going around it. And I know, like, no one knows what is actually going on. And ultimately, I think my main feelings on it is that it doesn't really matter. I've got a little piece to read for you at the end that I heard in it was at the end of a podcast I was listening to. Do you guys listen to the Medicine Stories podcast with Amber Magnolia Hill? It's a really cool podcast. And she was interviewing somebody whose article on coronavirus called the Coronation or Coronation Coronation by Charles Eisenstein. She was speaking to him over on the podcast in one of the recent episodes. And that was a really, like, it's a good podcast anyway, but that was a really interesting episode. His article is really, really good. I even made my husband read it, and he's not much of a reader, so it's not short. It takes, it took me, I think, like over half an hour to read it, which is, quite a long time for an article on the internet kind of thing. But it had it raised a lot of really good points. And yeah, I think that I suppose I liked it because I feel like I agree with it. Yeah, Jen says, I think Mother Nature's cleaning house. We didn't do a good job, so she's doing it herself. Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of what my heart and what my guides and things kind of tell me as well. Like, I don't really believe that it's... Oh, hey, Heather. Oh, Liz, the name of the podcast is called Medicine Stories. It's really interesting kind of mixture of, it's mainly herbalism. She's a herbalist, but there's lots and lots of other good stuff there. So yeah, there's lots of interesting threads to follow. She does talk about hallucinogens and stuff on this. If that's not your kind of thing, then but it might be. so you might like it. I think you would like it. So yeah, I'm just saying I'm agreeing with Jen about it being like Mother Nature, like out in nature at the moment. Here in Wales, we are still we're still allowed out once a day to have your like daily exercise, and the weather has been absolutely gorgeous. And like if you go up and kind of link to the trees, connect with the trees, listen to the birds, they're not worried. They're really not afraid. There isn't the fear there that you will find if you like go to the supermarket, for example. Yeah, well, people could say, well, that's because they're oblivious, but I don't believe that is the case. And I really do feel that it's a shift that isn't happening in accordance with the way things should be, the way things are. And like, that sounds really heartless and awful. And you can't say good things. It's really difficult, because if you say, I feel like this is something that is necessary, then that sounds like you are being dismissive of the fact that there are lots of people dying. And of course not. I'm not dismissive of people dying. That is tragic. It is tragic. Even one person dying is tragic for their family, for their friends. That loss is a really big deal. And so it's really hard to try and take a kind of macro view of it. And so it makes it really, really difficult to talk about it. And I think that's one of the things that has made people kind of angry and made people more afraid as well, like when people are in mortal fear, then that is something which it takes a lot out of you, and it does make you feel kind of like powerless, which is what we are. It makes us come face to face with our powerlessness. And I think, yeah, it's just flicking up in the chat so fast I can't keep up with it. Andrea says maybe this should also help with our vision of death, and that is exactly what I feel like is happening. We have come to a place now where we are valuing safety and trying to abolish risk. And I know I talked about this a little bit in the live I did a few weeks ago, where I just kind of randomly popped up live. We talked about, you know, that in a society where risk is the minimizing risk above everything else is seen as the big deal, and like the whole rhetoric of like saving lives is a big illustration of this, because like we are not actually saving lives, we're postponing deaths. You know, and not that that's a bad thing to be doing or a bad aim to have, but it is it's not true to say that we're saving lives, because that isn't actually a thing that we humans can do. You know, we're all, the certainty for all of us is that we are all going to die, and nobody likes to, well, I say nobody, most people do not like to think about that, and most people would like to put that off for as long as possible, of course. But living like a caged animal because of fear is also not living, it's also not life. I've been rereading the Wizard of Earthsea books, which are amazing. I first read these when I was a teenager and really loved it. It's Ursula K. Le Guin, may she rest in peace, and she's been an excellent mentor from the other side. And the book I've been making my way back through, and I've just finished the third book today, which is called The Farther Shore, and it's basically, it's like, couldn't be more appropriate for this particular time. Like if you have this book, or you know, just download it on Kindle or whatever, The Farther Shore is the third book in the series. I don't think you would really have to have read the other two before it, but you know, like they're definitely worth reading as well. But it is it talks about, it's set in it's a fantasy novel, so it's set in like a fantasy world, which is Earthsea, and in the Farther Shore, the magic is leaching out of the world. People have forgotten the true names of things, and the wizards and sorcerers and witches are losing their power. The dragons are losing their speech. And darkness is coming onto the people. There's a lack of joy, you know, people are not taking joy in life. Everyone is very much focused on trying to achieve immortality. People have been like kind of seduced by immortality, and so instead of living, they are like kind of cocooning themselves, and basically bargaining. The kind of central character, I don't want to like really ruin it for you all, so I won't tell you what happens, but that's the premise. You know, the central character, the central antagonist, the baddie, is winning people over to the dark side by promising them eternal life. But what is actually happening is no life. You know, people are not having life. And I feel like that is, with all the kind of controls and restrictions and things that are coming on us, and that we've seen really strongly in the last few weeks, have done with us. But it's not something that's been dramatic, but it's something that has been happening gradually for a long time. In that podcast I mentioned earlier, Charles Eisenstein was talking about how, like, in his youth, he used to play a lot more out beyond the, you know, the bounds of where parents would find people. The same with me in my youth, and you know, I know some of you guys here are older and you will probably remember being free to roam, and kids now are not. And like, if I go to my father's generation, like the tales my father tells me of things they used to get up to when they were kids, you know, it just makes you, it'd make your milk curdle, you know. So things have changed a lot, and our autonomy, maybe not that, our joy in life, our pleasure, you know, is being eroded. And that has been happening gradually, but now it is happening woomph, you know. And I really feel like it's got a lot to do with a pushback against change, which is generally happening. I am, like, you know, I joke about this being the end times, about the apocalypse, but I'm not really joking. You know, I don't think that it's going to be like the world's going to explode or anything like that. But I do, there is death. Death is coming. Death is coming to people, to families, but death is also coming to our bigger institutions and to our way of life, you know, like we can't get things now that we could easily get before. We are going to have to change our ways. And it's something that I was already talking about before that. And I think it's been really magnified by like the astrology that is happening at the moment is, of course, spot on with it. Especially I think this really big shake-up that we're having now with Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, which is basically like Taurus is that fixed earth sign, and then Uranus is like a shaking electric sign. It's like it's an earthquake. And things are... people are already talking about like the new normal or the new abnormal and things like that, and like I smiling about it and kind of joking about it is my way of coping with things like that. And like we'll talk about ways of coping and stuff on probably more in the next hour. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it. I'm gonna have a quick look at the chat, so please don't... I feel like I'm kind of monopolizing, so let's have a look at what's going on in the chat. So yeah, everyone's saying that they want to reread Earthsea. Definitely do it. It like almost, you know, like when you just read something at the perfect time. And like I was enjoying reading the first 2 books, but then when I read that The Farthest Shore, I was just like, oh, you know, it's now. This is what is happening in the world now. Siren says, I just listened to a conversation by the EMA, Environmental Media Association, spoke about climate change and COVID-19. Okay, so I haven't seen that. Oh, hey Elaine. Hey Lilypad. Yeah, hey Lily. Hey Lady Blind Wolf. Yeah, Joanna, do read it again. It is really, just really resonant at the moment. Andrea says, problem not accepting death is it reflects on everything in our lives, like not accepting change at the end of a relationship. Yes, yeah, because like death, death obviously is death, but there's also all those little deaths and not just orgasms along the way, you know. It's cycles. If we can't accept death, we can't accept birth, we can't bring in any new change, you know. Exactly what you're saying, Andrea. Yeah, beautiful. Youth is the prize to be held on to. Yeah, and like youth is beautiful. It is precious, and it is wonderful because it's so unaware of its mortality, you know, because it's such a long way away, and that is a beautiful thing. But there's power and beauty in other stages and things too. Yeah, Heather saying we used to go miles on our bikes. Gosh, yeah, we just would go, you know, and not worry, and no one would worry. Like we'd go out and like my mum would say, come back when the lampposts turn on. And that would be it. So, oh hey Tracy, I'm just reading back through the chat. And John says, I don't feel like we had a life before this situation either, being lost in work, responsibility, studies and everything else. Yeah, that's such a good point as well, that like obviously not for everyone, because some people are working like on the front lines, they're dealing, you know, they're working in healthcare or caring for elderly people and things like that, and their lives, or even like, you know, working in supermarkets, working as delivery drivers and stuff like that. And they haven't got the luxury that some of us have got, I have got, being at home. And like I feel really guilty because it's much easier for me to take the long view and to be like, yes, of course, you know, how much easier is it to take the long view and be like, oh, it's all slotting into place exactly as it should be, when I'm not having to deal with things on a day-to-day. And also because I have got that luxury of time, I live with people that I love. I can still hug them, I can still hug my dog, we can go out for walks, you know. I am in a wonderful position compared to the position that lots of people have been in, and that makes, you know, I'm grateful for it, I'm glad for it, but I'm also feel guilty because, you know, there are people... Kellyanne Maddox did a video talking about like the things that are going on, and she raised so many good points in it, like, you know, she's so like... I was going to say right on, but that sounds like I'm taking the piss, and I'm really not taking the piss. You know, she's just... her sense of like social justice is just so keen, and she talked about like people who are living with abusive partners, and how people are like policing other people right now, which is really happening, and how people are spreading like false positivity as well, like, you know, insisting that people be positive about things when that might not be how you feel. And so that, you know, definitely watch that. She's far more eloquent than I am, and much more like on point with her with seeing the big picture about things like that. So I feel like I'm coming at it more from like a heart spirit kind of point of view. Not that Kellyanne's not, but like just what I feel, I guess, just what I feel. So wait, why did I start on that? Oh, talking about feeling guilty about not hating the situation, really. I was talking to my neighbour earlier, and him and his family, they're really sociable family. They love like having friends over. They are, you know, they have friends over to stay really often, and they're finding it so weird, you know. They just obviously feeling it. I saw a meme as well on social media saying something like introverts, check on your extrovert friends, they are not okay. And like it's for a lot of people that's really true as well. One of my friends is really struggling because she is the sort of person who just loves to be with people, and you know, that's the true meaning of introvert and extrovert. Extroverts get their energy from being with other people, like not in a leechy kind of way, but that is what energizes them. And so not having that opportunity to be with people actually is robbing her of her energy. And with introverts get their energy from being by themselves, and so it's much easier for us to get powered up during this kind of time. So yeah, there's a lot of different things going on, and I do feel guilty about feeling okay about things and about having the luxury of time to be able to kind of pontificate and philosophize it and stuff. But then also I feel like that is also legitimate. So yeah, and again, I'm chopping on and on and on, so I will have a little look. So yeah, it was Nomkwa said about having that space and time, and that has been fantastic. That has been really fantastic, and not having to be places at certain times. Time itself, you know, like how we've got that like human time that everything has to be by, and now time has kind of morphed into day and night, you know, units of light, units of dark, rather than units of hours or even half hours. You know, it's like my connection with space and time has been really altered by this, you know. And people are saying like I don't even know what day it is anymore, and you know, joking about it, but it is allowing for insight and deeper connection with self and deeper connection with spirit for lots of us. And I'm really grateful for that, even though I feel bad for the people who haven't got that same opportunity. I hope you understand what I mean. Andrea said she's worried about humanity not learning from it and going back. I think, and yes, I agree that is a risk. I think that this is actually going to drag out a lot longer than people are kind of thinking that it is. And so I actually think that we will have to make long-lasting changes, even though I don't think they will be as radical as they could be. Oh, hey, Shadow Moon Tarot. Hey, Tammy. Yeah, Siren, I agree. Changing things a big way. Jen says they aren't going to learn, we'll be forced to start over. And yeah, I was reading a blog by the word has gone from my head, like a not therapist, somebody who works at an ecologist, and they were talking about how viruses are actually like have been around for a lot longer than humans, and that we have kind of battled against them in certain ways and kind of upset the balance, and now the virus is kind of not fighting back, but taking back the rightful balance, you know. And you know, we might have to learn the hard way. We might have to. Heather says it's not on a list. I'm assuming you mean Earthsea. Definitely read it. I think you would really like it. The writing that is so rich, the language is so rich, it's beautiful. It's not an easy read, but it kind of is once you get into it, because it's interesting, but it's rich as well in the writing. Yeah, sorry, do send me that list. I'll have a look. Tracy, it's so cool that you're here. That's the kind of why I timed it. It's quite late my time at the moment, but I wanted to time it quite late so that people in different areas would be able to come if they wanted to. Same thing about the lampposts, yeah. Oh, thanks Jen for the thumbs ups. Thanks for hitting the thumbs up, guys. When my kids watch YouTube videos, they always have people saying, smash that like button and subscribe to my channel. And stuff like that, which is like, yeah. Yeah, feeling guilty, Heather. I think we're bound to feel like that because we do care about other people, you know, and so it's going to be. Sometimes we need to learn how to live again in the here and now, present time. Yes, yeah. Toxic positivity is a problem. Definitely watch Kellyanne's video, like I said, because she has talked about things that I won't be talking about, and are really, really great points. Heather says, I think everyone's feelings are legitimate and are not necessarily static. Oh God, yeah. I've been doing a couple of like online circles and stuff, and one of the things that we've been talking about is how changeable feelings are. Like some days, you know, it's like, yes, this is, you know, I've totally got this. This is a really good thing for the world, and it's going to be a great outcome and all this kind of thing. And then other days it's not, and even not just days, you know, things can change from hour to hour. Oh, sorry, Frodo. I just flicked a lead and he's stressed him out. He's lying on the floor by me. Being able to work at home, but starting to miss the office, says Emperor's Song. Yeah. Yeah, and being ungrateful for jobs. I think people's relationships to jobs has been really interesting, and like it's also been a little bit disturbing, like some of the chat about now we all see who the real key workers are, you know, and yes, you know, there's certainly people working jobs that don't get the respect and the financial remuneration they deserve, and that has been definitely brought into light. But it does worry me somewhat as well when people are talking about things like that, because it's almost like artists' work, like musicians, writers, things like that people have been consuming an awful lot as well during this time, is taken as granted. And just because those people aren't actually creating that work live, although some are, you know, people are putting up live things for people to watch and stuff, it's people aren't necessarily noticing that art in all its forms is something that is actually helping people get through this. Or, you know, obviously some people are noticing that, but they're not being linked, artists are not being talked about in that same key worker note as I'm seeing with other people. But yeah, I think people are generally feeling more grateful about their jobs and just grateful to have a job at all, because, you know, long after the health implications of this have subsided, the economic implications are going to be huge. You know, that they're going to affect a lot more people's lives, I think, than the virus itself. Jen says, I'm an only child, so being alone doesn't bother me. However, I'm also an extrovert. Yes. Yeah, Jen, how, because you were home on your own as well, so how, you know, are you still managing to speak to, I guess, you know, like, we're using different ways, and that's a really interesting link with the, sorry, I keep putting my elbows on the desk and it's shaking the phone. That's been a really interesting link with the astrology as well, is that we have just moved, or we're like on the precipice of moving into this new 250-year air mode. We've been in earth mode before, and now we're moving into an air era, and it's been really interesting to see how that kind of air, that kind of communication, online communication through the ether, you know, has become massive. You know, Zoom is one company that is doing amazingly well through this whole thing, you know. So yeah, being grateful for essential service workers who are brave, and especially the people who, those of them who are really scared, you know, that it's a big deal, isn't it, to keep getting up and going to work, and then also coming home and potentially worrying about infecting your family and things like that. It is brave. An ecotherapist, yeah, that would be a good thing. There probably is a thing, isn't there? Oh, Tracy, had a lady ask me if she could sit next to me at the doctor's. Yeah, and the whole social distancing, you know, that is so like social distancing. That is a term that does not compute to say. It's that might have been in the Charles Eisenstein article as well. I'll make a little post with some of these links of articles, and if you've said you'll share things, give me those things to share as well, and I'll make a post with all of those links in it. Where they were saying like social distancing is a term very similar to like friendly fire. That soldier was killed by friendly fire, which means like by their own side, and like obviously friendly fire is not, that's not a thing, is it? You know, and it feels wrong, and people, you know, starting to wear masks in day-to-day life and stuff like that. That's scary. People have been bringing up passages from The Handmaid's Tale, which are eerily descriptive of what is going on now. But at the, you know, on the other side of the coin, like Shadow Moon Tarot is saying that people have started being kinder and more considerate towards neighbours and things like that. So much so, I've seen a lot of that, especially like locally here. We don't have that many elderly people in our street, but people have been, you know, like putting notes to people's doors saying, if you need anything, let me know. We haven't seen so much, luckily, where I live here, of the whole like, apparently the police have been inundated with reports of like my neighbours being out twice and they're only supposed to go out once and things like that. I haven't seen so much of that in real life, for me, although like I know that's happening. But I have seen lots of examples of goodwill and deeds kind of done from the heart kind of thing. So talking to people, like we've been doing this like clap for the NHS thing at 8 o'clock, which feels really like, for me, feels kind of uncomfortable and performative and kind of useless, but we do it because perhaps the staff of the NHS don't feel like that, so we've been going out and doing it. And you see like your neighbours all standing around the street all clapping, and like some of them I know, but some of them I don't know, and so it's kind of been weird seeing that. Where are we up to? Extroverts should have a time. Yeah, that's a really good point. So extroverts and sociable people are having a hard time. Now introverts and trauma survivors are finally feeling safer and thriving. How do we make this world work for both in the future? That's such a good point. And like, I don't know. I don't know how we do it, but the fact that we're even noticing and asking that question, because like for so long now the world has been swung towards people of a more extrovert nature, and so it's a big deal to be even thinking about it. Yeah, my husband's such an extrovert. Hey Stephanie Joe, I didn't see you here. Yeah, spending more time together as well, maybe. It's really hard as well. Like I know some of you who have got children as well. It's so hard for children. Like my daughter's not so bad. She's 10 and she is still connecting with her friends online and chatting, and she's more that kind of like chatty, airy personality anyway. Whereas my son, he's only 6.5, and he really is really missing like physical play with other kids, because you know you can't do that on Zoom. You can chat, you know, they play like video games on the screen, like some of the on Facebook Messenger they sometimes call and they can do stupid things like play games, but it's not the same as like physically playing with each other. So yeah, it's so weird. And like for the kids, my kids don't go to school anyway because they are home educated, but for the kids who are like now off school, their lives must feel so weird. You know, it must be just as weird, if not more so, for them than for the adults who are like working from home and stuff like that, because it is so weird, isn't it? It has really, really changed things. Oh, hey Rebecca, hey Carmen, hey Scarlet Moon Creations. Yeah, Rebecca says a lot of frontline workers are distancing from their immediate family and living apart so they don't infect them. Yes, and like, I've seen somebody I know in Bridgend, she's got a camper van, and she's like living in her camper van on the drive, and her children are living in the house. They're teen adults basically, but she works in the NHS, and so she's doing that to not infect them. Oh, Liz says lots of the NHS staff I know not liking the clapping. Yeah, it is a weird one. It is a weird one. Sorry, so there's a massive fire in downtown Condo. Oh gosh. Residents were exiting. They were social distancing by 2 meters down the stairs to get. Oh my gosh, that is unbelievable. And that's just show, like, you know, that's how weird it is now, isn't it? It's like, what I hope does not happen is that we will get to a place where we forget how to be an actual pleasant distance from other people. It's like ramped up stranger danger to the max, you know, like people are like taking such a wide berth. When I take the dog out, like, we're lucky around here that it is quite quiet, and so you don't bump into very many people when you go out for a walk, but you do sometimes bump into other dog walkers or walkers, and you know, people are like straining off the paths and across the fields so that they're not going too close to somebody else. Yeah, for 5-year-olds. Yeah, Liz, PPE, not applause. Yeah. That's another thing that's been bugging me as well. I think Kellyanne talked about this a little bit, is that like people keep getting told off for like, don't bring politics into this and this kind of thing, when they're criticising some of the things that the government have done or are not doing. And it's like, you're not, at times of crisis, it's become war, hasn't it? It's like wartime government now, and you're not allowed to question or criticise, well, yeah, like I say, not even criticise, just question what is going on and whether that's the best decision and things like that. And if you do so, you're seen at the moment as being like, you shouldn't be doing that. And it's coming across that whole kind of like unpatriotic kind of vibe. Like, if you don't do that, and that's, you know, that's another crossover with like Handmaid's Tale kind of stuff, you know. It's really weird. New businesses have been created for this. Trace says a gin distillery's been making sanist. Yeah, and we've had like car manufacturers been making like respirators and things like that. It's and like, how quick did that happen? How quick did they manage to put up other hospitals? And like, I know in different parts of the world it's different, but here in the UK, although we haven't seen it yet, the government are saying that they're going to pay people who are unable to work with money that has suddenly appeared from nowhere. You know, it's weird. Oh, Lachette, I am so sorry. Yeah. Wow, Tracy, yeah, my dad is 85 and remembers the polio epidemic when he was 16, and they closed the schools for a year. Yeah. You know, that, it, you know, and there have been pandemics before, obviously, and like, because people travel so much and people are so connected now, then everything travels much faster. People travel much faster, and so do diseases, and so it makes it much more difficult to kind of keep it under control. Oh, hey, Renee! I'm really happy you made it too. Yeah. New York has been on the news here a lot as well. I haven't been watching much of the news, and like I said, in the next hour we'll talk about things like, you know, if you still want to hang around, we will talk about things like coping strategies and things like that. But not watching very much news is definitely something that that I've been doing, and not using social media. Well, I suppose not using social media. I've been on TikTok a lot, which is like kind of social media for tweens and teens. But that has been like kind of light relief, really, and fun, a bit of fun. Hey, Driftless Mystic. Yeah, and like, political just means to do with the people, doesn't it? You know, that is the root of that word. And so anything that is done in a civilization is political. And so like saying don't politicize it is like, yeah, it's frustrating. And it's the sort of thing that does lead to kind of more totalitarian situations. So, but yeah, on the other hand, you know, criticising for the sake of it and sticking to party lines when the government, who maybe you don't like, in power, are actually doing useful things, that also is a problem, you know. So it's been really interesting to see how people deal with things in different ways. Hey, Cedar Creel. I thought it was Raquel, but I didn't want to out you. I know you changed it over on Instagram too, so I kind of had a little heads up. It's really nice to see you here. Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed quite a few of the creators I watch often have not been putting out so many videos. I know I haven't been putting out as many videos. Weirdly, like I said, that whole kind of time thing has made time weird, and so it doesn't feel like, yeah, those kind of like worky type things like making videos, even though, you know, it's not work, it's fun really, but I haven't been kind of called to do that so much. Renee says it's like Groundhog Day. Yeah, that it does feel a bit like that, isn't it? It's like lockdown day. I have no idea anymore, you know. Siren says some governments will be held accountable when this is over. I don't know. I like, yes, I'm sure they will, but I think a lot of crap decisions will kind of get swept under the carpet, under the sort of, we did the best we could at the time, and perhaps that's fair and true. You know, like I am worried about some of the things that are perhaps in the pipeline, like mandatory vaccination and things like that. But I'm not really a conspiracy theorist, so I don't kind of, I think most of the, like we talked about it really already, and that I feel like it's more of an earth-based and nature-based threat to humanity, and not so much a threat, but there's like a natural, I almost said cull, and that, but yeah, you know, in that kind of vein really, and we can respond to it in more positive ways or less positive ways. So yeah. Jess says I'm waiting on 26 decks. I almost said it like you were Tracy there. Or like Lisa Tarot Alchemist would say dicks from Kickstarter. That is just, that's a lot of decks. Probably as well, like just normal things like getting stuff in the post and being able to print things and stuff is just not happening as well. Like I know our business is really suffering at the moment. Yeah, I agree, Lachette. It's like the struggle between not wanting to be overwhelmed, but also like actually being informed about what's going on and to be able to keep people accountable. Although I think accountability is something that will probably come more later on, if at all. Yeah. Yeah. Harvest. Yeah, it's so weird, isn't it? Oh, is this still working? Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm happy with my room. Oh, okay. So it might be buffering. Internet has been patchy here. Apparently they've kind of turned down everyone's bandwidth. I don't know if this is actually true, but that is what people are saying, that they've turned down everyone's bandwidth because more and more people are using the internet all at the same time. So to kind of try and let more people use it, they've had to turn down the kind of quality of it. So hopefully this isn't too crappy. I didn't even think of that when I said about going live. Sometimes when we've been doing the Zoom chats and stuff, it's been a little bit glitchy. So yeah. So Gina says, what do you think your life will be like in a year? Do you anticipate major personal or lifestyle changes? And that's a really interesting question. Because, and that's one of the things that essay by Charles Eisenstein, The Coronation, really touched for me, is that we don't know. And we hate it that we don't know. And so it's really hard to make any kind of predictions about things. My husband is a musician, and initially his gigs were like cancelled for the next couple of weeks, and now as we're like moving and further on, gigs are getting cancelled further and further ahead, and now they're even like rescheduling things for like a year later and stuff like that, because people just don't know what was going on. And we don't. The essay is called, oh, Fred, are you okay? He just jumped up. I think he was asleep and I woke him. the essay is called The Coronation, and one of the things he talks about in it, which is one of the things that I wanted to bring up here as well, is that and that was where I was kind of going before I started talking about like feeling callous about people dying, and like I don't feel lightly about it at all, obviously, and also like the fact that people can't go to funerals and things, grieving our dead, which like I believe helps them to cross over peacefully, is something that is being missed out on. I feel like there's going to need to be a lot of work done on that afterwards, and because that is not being done. We can't do that at the moment under the current restrictions. But one of the points he brings up in that essay is that we have brought the world to a halt because of this threat, because of the coronavirus threat. And whether that is reasonable or not kind of still remains to be seen. We will see, I guess, when the final death tolls are in and how they compare to like overall death tolls in a normal year and things like that. You know, I think it probably will be a bit higher. Whether it'll be substantially higher, I don't know. And then of course people will say, well, that's because we locked down and things like that. So it's kind of like a moot argument anyway. But his point is that there are many crises happening in the world. You know, there are children dying and wasting from malnutrition. There are from an environmental point of view, you know, we are living in a way that is not sustainable, and there are many atrocities happening in the world, but we don't stop everything to do anything about them. And what he kind of posits in the article as the reason for that is that this is something that we know how to deal with because the answer is control. Whereas a lot of the other problems that we have in the world, the answer is not clear. But that's not to say there are not answers. And so he's kind of making the point that if we can bring the world to a stop because of this, can we not do more with it for these other issues, which are just as serious, if not much more serious, especially when we're talking about like environmental impact, because that literally could be, and I'm using literally in the literal sense, the end of the world. And well, the end of the human race, and we will take down many other plants and things with us, so plants and animals with us. So, but because we don't have a kind of consensus on how to deal with those problems, and because the answer is not control, although it kind of, it could be, it's not as easy to kind of tackle those things, or perhaps the impetus, the desire is not there to tackle those kind of things, because it's almost seen as like those are issues that will be dealt with at a later date. I'd really recommend reading the article, because it is, he says it much better than me, and it is much more of a elegant argument than that. But that's kind of how I feel, is that this has shown us that we can make massive changes in a very short space of time that can have a huge impact on the world. And if we have any kind of takeaways from that, it should be that we have more power than we realize. And also, like, coming back to that whole kind of personal safety, and what are we gambling? Like, do we gamble, do we stay really safe in a padded cell all our lives and not really live a life at all? Or do we risk a bit and live more and live well? And that's coming back to the Wizard of Earthsea, the Father Shaw book that I was talking about at the beginning. So yeah, and while I was talking, I can see lots of people are saying lots of really good things. Yeah, Rebecca, I agree that we can grieve our dead, yes. But for me, some of the physical practices associated with being there are important. And yet you can, of course, disagree with me on that, of course. Hunger is going to be an increasing problem. A more widespread problem, for sure, Renee, yeah. Yeah, definitely about events cancelling. because of insurance and stuff. And also, like, people seem to think that when events get postponed, it's like, well, that's okay because we can just reschedule it. But really, that's not you know, you can't get back that time however you do it, so you will never make as much money as you would have made necessarily in that time. You know, it's complicated. I'm so sorry, Lachette, that's so hard. And perhaps, you know, there will be opportunity for ceremony afterwards. Yeah, big huge tower moment. But like, I feel like it's almost like we are globally, we're still resisting the tower. We're not letting that tower come down because we're going to keep it up regardless. We're going to bung as much scaffolding on it as we possibly can. So yeah. Oh yeah, Raquel's saying that she heard the interview on medicine stories. I talked about that earlier, and that's definitely listen to that as well. That was really, really cool conversation, and it kind of extrapolates out more of the points that he made in the article. Yeah. Yeah, lots of people saying about sicknesses that are very similar to the symptoms of coronavirus, people having it a lot earlier on, which is interesting as well, you know. There's lots of different truths going around at the moment. But in fact, I'm going to quickly skim through this, and I've got something to read for you guys to kind of wrap up this first hour, and then I'm going to go to the loo and we can start again. If you want to, come back for a little bit more of a chat, maybe not so long. We can do better and do different. I believe we can. We have to. Oh, Renee, earlier I was talking about this, which is the Earthsea. This is actually like, it's 4 books in one because that's how they're binding it now, which is really handy. So this is really cool. Oh, Lachette, you're saying you thought this was the second chat. I'm sorry, yeah, it kind of was, because when I first hooked up to this chat, it kind of all went a bit wrong, and so I had to start like a whole fresh one again. But yeah, this is actually the first, this is our big talk. Heather says, I don't really agree that we are giving up our chance to live, though. The restrictions are not planned to be in place forever. Even if they're going for a year, that is still a relatively short time. It is. And for adults, I think that might not be such a big deal. But for small children, that is a massive chunk of their life, and a massive chunk of like developmental opportunities that they can't claw back. So it is and it isn't, you know. Like, I feel like I could cope with it like this for a year. You know, I say cope with it. And we've been made into heroes for staying home, you know, stay home, save lives. And that's like, we're staying home by doing nothing. And that feels, I don't know how it feels to you, but it feels really wrong to me. I don't want to be a hero for doing nothing. Even though, you know, obviously I am staying at home. I am doing all the sensible things, washing hands and like distancing from people and all this kind of thing. But that does not make you a hero. I don't think, you know. The lockdown measures are mostly a good thing. Yeah. And like, yes, definitely, especially like from the perspective that they're reducing strain on health services. I don't know. What I worry about is that this model of locking down the people is now we've set a precedent, and that now when there is any sort of whisper of anything, it can be whipped out at any point, and that does worry me. And yeah, there have been benefits to it. Like some of you guys have been saying that like staying at home and has given time for contemplation, meditate. I've been doing lots more meditating. I've been doing more yoga. There seems to be more time for things that you don't always get time to do. Renee says about about being, yeah, considerate. Yes, that is what you're doing. You're actually just doing, being a human. What is a decent human is what you're doing by staying at home. You're not a hero. But I understand the rhetoric is supposed to make people feel like they're more. It's war rhetoric again, isn't it? It's war rhetoric. We've given up a lot of our freedoms willingly without thinking about the long-term consequences. We have. People were begging in the UK for tighter restrictions. People are still begging for tighter restrictions, and how quickly they release the lockdown, however quickly they do it, I feel like there will be a big pushback against it. I think it will. So, thank you, Jen, so much. And thank you so much for adminning, for modding. I hope your trip to the store goes as smoothly as it possibly can, and that you get the things that you want and need. Compliance and cooperation, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so I've got something I want to read you, which I've saved. Where did I save it? I think I saved it on my computer, which she also references. So Raquel, you will have heard this already because she talked about it in the Medicine Stories podcast, which I talked about at the beginning. It's a little thing from somebody called Katie Lamont, who I also don't know. I heard about this via the Medicine Stories podcast. And like the point, I'll read it and let her make the point. If you believe this virus is spread human to human, the antidote is building the immune system with eating plants and natural medicines and sitting in nature alone or with your immediate family, soaking up vitamin D and sunshine. If you believe that this virus is symptoms of 5G exposure, then the antidote is sitting in nature, connecting to Mother Earth, building your immunity with eating plants and natural medicines, submerge yourself in water and dirt. If you believe that this is all a hoax and you just need to sit back while Q saves us all, then the answer is sitting in nature, building a garden for the new earth, commune with God, eat plants and natural medicines that strengthen your connection and open your channel to the new earth frequency, ascend with her. If you believe the economy is collapsing and authoritarian dictatorship is imminent, the most radical thing you can do in protest is build a garden, releasing dependency on the system. If you believe that Mother Earth is mad at us and purging the human race, the answer is go outside and listen, build a garden, align with her. The answer is always nature, always. We do not have to argue about the why. The antidote is obvious. Alignment with the mother, with our source of nurturance, remembering everything we use and need comes from her. Give thanks, humble, slow down, observe, listen. I just love that. That's exactly how I feel. It's like, it doesn't matter. And people want to find someone to blame or a country to blame because that feels, it makes it clearer, doesn't it? It makes it kind of feel like there's almost a point to it. But even if nothing is to blame, it doesn't matter because the answer is the same. The answer is the same. Yeah, I agree, Renee. It's balancing risk and protecting those who are vulnerable and protecting the quality of life for people is a huge deal. It's something that I don't know how to do that. I'm glad you enjoyed that. Raquel says, I understand why we're doing what we're doing, but I worry about our freedoms being infringed upon, and I cannot imagine being one of the unemployed right now. I worry about theft and rioting. Yeah, of course. And like the longer it goes on, and whether or not like the money actually materializes that the governments have promised and stuff, homeless people there are huge issues to be dealt with, and it's not going to go away in a few weeks. It's going to be a very, very long but in a way I think that's kind of good because it's going to mean that we have to deal with things. So I'm going to terminate this chat here, and I'm going to try and start the actual small talk chat, which is where we're going to talk about things like coping strategies, what we're doing to help us feel sane and calm and things like that. So yeah, hopefully see you guys there. So I'm going to turn this off if I can remember how to do that.